Very good. Hi, everybody. My name is Jake here with SF Indie Fest, and this is the Q&A for the Shorts with Features block, part one. We have a globe-spanning crew here with us to talk about their work. And to start, well, first want to welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. And we'll introduce everybody on each team. We'll introduce the team with from Stolen Fish. If they'd like to say hello.
Yeah, hello, I'm Emilia. I'm talking to you from Warsaw in Poland.
Right on. And the team from Aguilucho.
Yeah, hi. This is Daniel, the director of Aguilucho, and I'm calling from upstate New York.
Hi, I'm Katrin Redfern, also with Aguilucho, and I'm also in upstate New York.
Okay. So we got two countries so far. That's good. And the team for River of Raptors.
Oh, we have one more actually.
Oh, you have one more. Oh, sorry.
That's it.
Yes, my name is Jose Vargas. I'm from the team of Aguilucho, and I am in Panama.
Sorry about that. It was a pleasure to meet you.
No worries. We get an extra country out of it too.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get that bingo card going. And then Joanna, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Joanna, and I'm the director of To Calm the Pig Inside, and I'm calling in from Boracay, Philippines.
Terrific. Yeah, we're batting 1,000. So thank you again. Thank you all for joining us. And Joanna, you're up bright and early. Let's start with you. Just wanted to ask, and what was the genesis of your work? Like, where did it start from? How did you get involved with it?
Wow, that's a very, very long process, but I'll try to condense it. I mean, I
Sure.
didn't really intend to make a film initially. I was involved with another. So basically, my film To Calm the Pig Inside is about the super typhoon Haiyan that landed in the Philippines back in 2013. And at the time, I was actually trying to work on my first fiction film, but I ended up being the local producer for a 3D French film. And so I spent a lot of time in the affected areas where thousands died, and it was basically impossible to not get involved with the trauma somehow. And I eventually started a scholarship initiative, and so I was going once or twice a year and getting to know the students and the teachers. So I got to know a lot of different stories. So eventually I decided to put together a film relaying some of these stories that we hadn't really heard in the news, because the news was more focused on numbers and stats, and I was more interested in relaying normal stories. So yeah, that's basically how the film started. And eventually, since I didn't really have my that much of my own footage, I ended up collaborating with different people like photojournalists as well as storm chasers to eventually create this film. And also I worked with the students that I had. They had created drawings for me, so that became a essential part of the film.
Yeah. I mean, it's just this sort of prosaic, approach of gathering all these different experiences. You really see it. And Amelia with Stolen Fish. I mean, your team is it's very much like a fly on the wall of seeing how this larger, capitalistic force is really changing. The space in the Gambia. I was just curious, like, how did you and your team come about finding those folks to work with, and what was it like, getting to know them and understanding what was going on?
Yeah, so basically we also wanted to show normal stories from normal people, citizens. This is the most important thing that we can show in Europe, in the West. So I'm an I'm making some anthropological studies about Gambian people and in general West African coast. So I'm really focused on ethical consumption and migration. So I met Gosia Juszczak, director of the movie, and we started to talk about the case because she lives in Madrid, so she knows a lot of immigrants from West African coast. And that's how we came out with the idea, actually, that we can do something together. So yeah, it was like that. Gosha had like a huge idea about the movie, and I was the one who took her and the movie crew to the Gambia because I knew people there, and it was a bit easier for us to get involved in local communities and meet some activists there.
Awesome. Awesome. And I mean, speaking of migration, you got, Daniel and Katrina and Jose with Aguilucho. I was curious, how did y'all, work together, and where did that process start?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having us. And I got into the story through one of Jose's colleagues, David, at the Peregrine Fund. And we had done a project about 10 years ago tracking illegal wildlife poaching in Honduras. And when he told me about the eagle and I started researching the Darien Gap, it was mostly in the context of the intense history of conflict there. There's a lot of violence towards indigenous people, illegal logging, drug trafficking, human migration. So, we really didn't know what we were getting into. But when I learned about Playa Muerto and the Embera tribe and their relationship to the eagle, it's such an incredible, almost otherworldly beautiful place, but it felt so fragile. And there's all these pressures that are burgeoning on the community there. But it also felt like kind of a counter narrative to the rest of the terrifying backdrop. So, here's a people that have this ancient relationship with the eagle, and by protecting the eagle habitat, not only are they preserving their own traditional landscape and they're reconstituting these cultural practices like the eagle dance that we show in the film, but the eagle's presence is also creating this economic opportunity for them through tourism. So hopefully to make their lives more sustainable and improve them. So it's the virtuous cycle. And I found that just really inspiring. And Jose can speak to it better than I can. His organization's been working there for a long time, and he himself has been there, I think, 21 years. But this is very much the model of their organization, this community-led conservation, and supporting local communities and protecting and having stewardship over their own traditional landscapes. And I guess like a lot of people who work in the conservation field, I grapple pretty often with my own despair regarding the ecological crisis, the climate crisis, but this relationship felt like a real alternative to the colonialist and capitalist models that control the world. And so I'm deeply grateful for the work that Jose and his organization do, and for the Embera people, and have been able to spend time in that beautiful place and make friends with the community and climb some magnificent trees to film one of the largest and rarest birds on the planet.
Awesome. So yeah, Jose, you've been there for about 21 years?
Yes, I am a biologist. I work with the Peregrine Fund. I have 21 years working with the local communities, the Embera and Waunan people, in different locations. Playa Muerto is one of them, where we work with trying to get something different because they want to work with harp eagle and also with sea turtles in conservation of those species, involving a sustainable action that benefit the communities, as well to benefit the conservation of the biodiversity around their communities. So we work in resource environmental education, training local people, and looking for economic action to benefit the people in there.
Awesome. Yeah, and Katrina, I just want to ask you too, like what was it like, getting ensconced in this and really just kind of, learning about this community as you guys were working further on this project?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all went in with a dedication to supporting Indigenous conservation efforts. But beyond that, this was, we were kind of coming into an unknown quantity in a way. And, it was really due to just the openness and trust of the community there, as well as the strong relationships that the Peregrine Fund and Jose have with those communities, that we were able to, dig deep into the personal stories there, in the time that we had. So yeah, just getting into those relationships really was one of the most powerful things about this experience.
Yeah, and Amelia too, with you, and you said your partner in Madrid, like you get some really intimate moments with these people, and with the folks on the game. I was just curious, like, what was that process like of like getting to know everybody and getting that level of, I guess, comfort in being in front of the camera and not really reacting to the camera as much? Like, what was that like? Like, how long did that, kind of process take for you guys?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I guess basically it's about respect. Like we are all people, so people can feel your intentions and your emotions either. So this is the most important thing for me. And you need to spend some time with people. Like this is different than journalism. You are going there to make a documentary movie, so you need that time. And even Gambians, they told us that they met a lot of journalists, especially from Europe. They were asking the same questions, but they didn't tell them the whole story because there wasn't time. They were afraid that maybe they will do something really bad with those informations. So yeah, like the most important thing is just to respect someone and also show yourself and your intentions. And you need time to do that to make someone trust you.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, Joanna, you were talking about how, you were working on another project, and obviously this event happened, you just kind of, it absorbs everything around, and you had a lot of time to work with a lot of different people and putting together this sort of larger vision. I was just curious if you could speak to what it was like talking to so many different sets of people about the same event. Like, what was that kind of, like you're all kind of working through this event together? Did you feel that when you were, putting the piece together, and what was that process like?
Well, it really was kind of organic. As I mentioned, I didn't really intend to make a film, so I was really just talking to people and getting to know them. Or, when we were filming the French production, people just came up to me and just told me their stories. And yeah, so it was super organic. But eventually, when I did decide to make the film, then I was a bit confused. How do I actually relay these stories and stay true to it? Because there's 100 million ways to say the film. And I like what Amelia said. I mean, I'm not a journalist and I didn't want it to be a journalistic piece. So, how do I stay true to this? And I wasn't even from that island, really. And so there's some sensitivity to that because of the huge trauma that happened.
Sure.
So eventually I decided to get a writer on board. And then he asked me to relay my experience. And when I relayed my whole experience, my anger and how everything was treated and how the people felt, he felt strongly. He's like, this has to be from your point of view. That's the only way to connect all these different disparate stories. And I went along with it because I actually really love essay films. So yeah, so then I decided we'll go with this and just be as truthful as possible. And it's a 19-minute film, but I actually have so many more stories that I could have injected, but I decided to keep it because a lot of people ask me why didn't I make it in a feature length. I didn't feel like we needed it to be feature length. Yeah, the stories I chose, I think, was representative of a lot of other stories that I'd heard.
Right. Right. I mean, well, once you settled on that approach, and you started working with this writer, were there any, there's a lot of stuff you wanted to include or not include. Sorry, Jose. That were there any, I guess, unexpected challenges, like once you settled onto that, settled into that path, that you were just like really trying to contend with in terms of getting the narrative in the way that you wanted it to work out?
Um, that's a that's a yeah. Again, I'm not. It's a bit a while ago, but I think in the end I decided because I was trying to be as honest as possible. In the end, I decided, how do I understand this whole idea of trauma? And we know this is going to last for generations. So I also drew from my own personal experiences, because families had approached me. So I thought to inject that way. Um, so I think it was tough, I suppose, to just, go back into my own memories, think about my childhood and how it could relate to the story that I was trying to tell. So from that process, I suppose that took me a while to do, and to also, which voice do I use? Do I use an older person's narration? Do I use it in English? Do I use it in their language or my language? Yes, and then eventually we chose on one that I thought suited the story most.
Yeah, absolutely. And Amelia, same question for you. What were some like unexpected challenges through your production, like that you had to, go through that you weren't, obviously you're equipped to handle because the movie finished, but like, what was an unexpected difficulty? Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Mostly government, actually, because the subject that we are going on is really it's not the best for the government. It's actually it's
Sure.
against government. So that was the big difficult for us, because we wanted to enter the fish meal factories. We wanted to talk with politicians, but the door were always closed for us. So because we also wanted to show like two sides of the story in the movie, but we couldn't. And also we've been really afraid that we will show our point of view, like Jana said, right? And we didn't, like, for us, we cannot, like, we are trying to understand Gambians, how they feel, but we will never know. So we were trying to show their point of view, and that's why we gave them the microphone. And that's why the movie looks like this, because we made like hundreds of interviews, like in front of the camera, like talking heads. But in the end of the production, we assumed that it doesn't make any sense, because we just want to show life that people have over there and show these emotions, because talking heads, and they wouldn't be enough, especially when we don't have those both sides. We don't have this important talks with politicians and the government. So yeah, that was difficult for us, but we still didn't finish, I guess. So the project is going. So we hope that in the future we will pass those things and do something more.
Awesome. And then Daniel and Katrin, there obviously, you mentioned earlier the sort of precarity of the environment and your understanding of it, as you guys were working there. But I was wondering, it seems like you had like a pretty solid, relationship with Jose and that team. But what were the challenges on your end that you were just kind of not really baffled by, but like what were the things that were a little tough to navigate?
For me?
Oh, I'm sorry, for Danielle and Katrin.
Yeah, sorry.
Same question to them.
Well, I mean, working in the rainforest is always hard, and we were working pretty deep in the rainforest. I think our biggest challenge was probably on a technical level. We had to get pretty high up in these trees, about 100 feet up, in order to film this pretty rare behavior. The adult feeding the chick only happens once every few days. You can't really predict it exactly. And we had to get our platform up. We had some real issues with tropical hardwood, which turns out is impossibly dense and difficult, and we couldn't even get nails through it after we drilled through the boards. And so we were stuck out there with one board up in a tree, which is not enough to put a 150-pound camera rig with, the longest Cinelens on the world on. And we're like, shoot, we've got like a day to pull this off now. What are we going to do? Like, we'd missed the first feeding. And so the adult had come back and seen us and left. And so we were like, he's definitely going to come back again soon. And we're probably only going to have one chance, then he'll be gone for a while. So, we ended up relying on local knowledge, which was to use bamboo to actually build the platform and elevate it and set it in the tree. And it meant we had a pretty precarious platform. There are these, 1.5 foot wide gaps between the boards rather than it being a solid thing. So, so we had to build up there, but we got it up the morning, late at night, like probably 2 a.m. or something. The climbing team got it up. And then at 5 a.m., I was going up the tree, and we got the call from the observation that the adult had returned. I was like literally at the bottom of this rope, 100 feet up above me, and the adult was in the nest, and they only do this feeding behavior for 20-30 minutes, right? So zipped up the tree, and then we sent up the camera piece by piece. And I've never built a camera faster in my life, and managed to get it built and managed to get the feeding behavior on film, and such a relief. And then after we had that, it was like, okay, now we can settle in for the next few days and do proper wildlife cinematography, right? Which is a lot of waiting, and just pick off nice little moments, but we've got the thing that we came for. So think that was a big challenge that could have gone the other way, but some combination of luck and local knowledge, and we managed to pull it off.
Yeah, wow. That's nuts. Is he whistling Dixie? Was it as crazy as he's making it sound, Katrina? Or was there anything else that was, just as wild as that?
Yeah, I think it definitely came down to the technical aspects on this shoot in particular, as well as just the fact that we were a new team, in a lot of ways, we were 6 people, coming together, to make something who, some of us had worked together in different capacities before, but, there's always that element of, the interpersonal stuff, getting to know each other and making sure that you're always functioning well as a team, despite like a lot of variables that are going on. So there's that kind of negotiation, and then there's the, here in particular, the technical aspects, and then just in terms of trying to suss out, what the subjects of the film are going to be, in a limited time. You're conducting a lot of interviews, and you're trying to sort of figure out what your main storyline is going to be, and adjusting your line of questioning sort of as you go. New things come up. Oh, okay, that sounds like something we really need to follow up on. So just kind of, I guess, remaining sort of malleable, able to pivot in the moment and adjust your expectations, with all the moving parts, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one work might be still ongoing, but y'all are getting this and showing it to people. I just want to go with Joanna. What has the response been to folks that have seen this? Do they feel, just what's the response been? I don't want to put words into anybody's mouth. To folks once you've shown them the film.
Yeah, so the typhoon happened in 2013, November 8, 2013, and we basically, the footages and the stories are coming from 2014 to 2016. And we premiered it in Park City at Slamdance January 25th last year. And by the time I went there, I was a little bit removed from it. But when I finally watched it on a big screen, I just remember pinching myself, a little bit emotional, I suppose, remembering all the stories that I'd heard. And when I finally came to the Q&A and during the whole festival, different people from different countries approached me, and I was very, I suppose, pleasantly surprised, because they started relaying to me how it resonated with them. Either A, they didn't know what a typhoon was, or B, the whole idea of trauma, I suppose, resonated with them. And so since then, the film has traveled pretty much around the world, and it's gotten 6 awards. And I was very surprised that it was also even not shortlisted, but it was one of the nominees for IDA in the States.
Wow,
So
congrats.
yeah, so it was like, it was supposed to be this tiny little film, but it resonated, and went to Mexico, went to all around the States, and even in Bangkok. So for me, the lesson I suppose I learned is, whenever I'm making a film now or a story, I'm going to just try to make it as honest, or something that could relate to me personally, and I think that's worked the best out of all my films.
Awesome. And Amelia, I mean, so you want to extend, continue your work. Have you noticed, now that the work has gotten out there a little bit, like some more flexibility with, maybe getting those perspectives from government officials or other people in the area? Like what's the tail of this been for you, I guess? Like what's the development been like for you? Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted again.
I muted and mute again, sorry. So yeah, I guess if you want to go back into the Gambia and film something more, it would be much easier than for the first time, because of the people that we know them, and first of all, they know us. So
yeah,
and they trust us already, and they would know what we did with the first videos that we made there. So they would feel more safe than before. But with the government, I guess it's still not so easy. And this situation over here didn't change at all. But now we are trying to focus on immigrants that are already in Europe. And one of our characters in the movie, Abu, was saying that he's thinking about migrating to Europe because life in the Gambia is too hard for him. He actually did that year after the movie finished. So yeah, we didn't tell before about this because we weren't actually sure what will happen with Abu. But now we know that he's in Spain and he's been in Tenerife. And yeah, we are trying to figure out what to do with the story, and we are still in touch with him. So this is the plan for now, the other side of the story here in Europe.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and same, question for Daniel and Katrine, like what's the, and Jose as well, like what's the response been now that the film has gotten out there? Have you noticed any sort of changes in the way in which the Harpy Eagle has been, sort of portrayed or respected in the environment, or the tourism parts changed, or what have the differences and changes been since the production has wrapped?
Well, I think it's going to be an ongoing challenge in the region. There's a lot of really heavy pressures on the people there. And I think Jose can maybe speak to the ongoing work that's being done with the people at Playa Muerto, by his efforts and his organization, because I think that is the best hope. I mean, the best way forward to protect this landscape is through this indigenous-led management, and his work is really supporting that. So Jose, do you want to speak to that at all? What your plans are for going forward? I know it's been a difficult time with COVID there.
Yes, the problem with COVID in Playa Muerto is more or less over. Everything was fine. They managed very well the situation with traditional medicine. That's something that is incredible because no one died.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and there is a lot of old people there, so no one died. So that's great. Yeah, with them, we our project try to it's hard to explain that in English because it's not my first language.
Sure.
The local people have a lot of dreams. We want to look what of those dreams are the best to conserve the biodiversity and work with them and explore those dreams and try to put those dreams in action, in concrete. So we work with them in different communities, not only Playa Muerto. We work in 7 communities with different action. In Playa Muerto, they want to explore more action with the ecotourism because they are close to the ocean and they have more access for cruise
ships.
Yeah. So they work in that. They are good doing that, and they want to continue in that direction. Also conserving the forest. But we work with them in different action, like keep wildlife animals, conducting like raising domestic and other wild animals that they can raise in their community. So in that way, they can reduce the impact in the wildlife animal in the forest around their community. So that there is different action, but most in Playa Muerto, the action that we are like supporting is the ecotourism.
And we're just hoping the film can support those efforts and the ongoing conservation efforts by the people there. Yes. And by Jose's organization.
Absolutely. And well, one thing too, we have filmmakers and experts and people in different spaces. I mean, obviously no pressure to, but if you guys have any questions you'd like to ask each other, I'd love to open the floor up. And see, again, no pressure, to do it if you don't want to, but I think it's always great to hear what other filmmakers want to ask each other. So, anybody wants to take the plunge?
Sure. Oh yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I would say is I wish I could have seen your films. I always think this, like I wish I could have seen your films before a Q&A, then I'd have more questions. But just listening to the talk, I mean, I do have a few questions already, but Playa Muerto, I love the name, but I'm actually in a beach now, Boracay, and I've started a new project, and everything everyone's saying is actually resonating. You know, this whole idea of waiting around for the story and whatnot. I don't have any specific question, but I just want to say, just listening to everybody, it's helping me give ideas for the project I'm working on now. And if maybe eventually, I do want to talk more about Playa Muerto eventually, by email maybe.
Yeah, and likewise, I'm really excited to see both of your films, which I also haven't been able to yet, but definitely will.
Right on, right on. Well, terrific. I mean, I think that this seems like a good time. I really want to thank you all again for joining us. And thank the audience too for watching the Shorts Block. This is terrific. Yeah, keep watching these films. I mean, the fact that we're all sitting in different countries having this conversation with one another is pretty remarkable, and really enjoyed this time. So thank you all again for joining us, Joanna. Thank you for waking up super early to join us. And thanks again, and take care. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye. Nice meeting you all.